Hello guys, so welcome back. Thank you so much for clicking. Hope you guys are doing great. Mary being God.
I didn't say that you Christians said that. I said that the Catholic Church has made a determination, a pontifical determination, and they have upgraded, promoted Mary from the Mother of God to God itself.
Wow.
That's what I said, the Catholic Church.
Ah.
Now, if you collaborate and support the Catholic Church in that, you may not even be aware that they made that amendment.
I would be aware because the Catholic Church will give all the direct religion teaching from the
Well, then you should know that that is the case, that Mary is now considered not just the Mother of God, but part of God himself.
Proofs from the Bible.
First of all, yes, I did subject not the Bible itself, but I subjected what has been commonly believed concerning Jesus Christ. I subjected that to scrutiny. And I did so with evidences and references from the Bible, Old and New Testament, of which I've only given to you maybe a tenth of the references which I have here, which itself is only a tenth of the references that could be made available to you. And I'll just deal with one, and I'll give you the chance to answer. You give me one reference in the Old or the New Testament to the Trinity. One reference. And the only one you'll find is the one that has been expunged, abrogated. This is the most blatant contradiction of the Bible. Among other blatant contradictions that I read, I say you or anyone else give me a verse from the Bible where Jesus said, Father, Son, Holy Ghost, Trinity. Now, if Jesus didn't say that, if the historical Jesus didn't say that, then I say that's like lying on my mother. That's like lying on my wife. That's like lying on your mother or your wife. And you would not allow somebody to lie on your mother or your wife. You would defend them. And I love Jesus more than I love my wife. And you should love Jesus more than you love your wife. And I said that that Trinity is a lie and a fabrication against Jesus, and there's no evidence of it in the words of Jesus. Now, we were talking here about the historical Jesus. Now, relative to the Quran has been subjected to scrutiny on a historical basis, on a scriptural basis, as to its source, its references, its validity. It has stood that test, but that's another discussion here. Here we're talking about several blatant inconsistencies relative to the person, the mission, and the message of Jesus Christ. And what I tried to delineate here is that there's obviously two different Christs. There are two separate Christs that are not, they don't collaborate, they don't mix, they're not compatible. One has got to be a lie and the other one's got to be the truth. Now, if the historical Jesus that I gave reference to is a lie, then it's up to the people to say that historical Jesus that you referred to is a lie. And the one that I referred to as being the mythological Jesus created by Paul in the church is the truth. So now I give you the chance to give us just one evidence of the Trinity, since that's the biggest lie. Good try. I mean, a lot of metaphors, a lot of insinuations, but no direct reference at all to the issue of Trinity from Jesus. And ironically, my friend, in case you don't know this, Paul himself never mentioned the Trinity. The Trinity was decided in 354 by Constantine at the Council of Nicaea. I gave you the hint. I gave you the information. All you had to do was follow the dots. Now, I want to make it plain that we Muslims and Christians, we cousins. See, we cousins. We're all one human family. And we ain't gonna break out no knives or no guns, and we ain't gonna take nobody hostage here. And we're not gonna start no new crusade. What we're trying to do here is, we're trying to reason, said the Lord. Prove all things by reason. And I say, let's go back to the 10 Commandments of Moses. Before we start getting hypothetical, let's go to the 10 Commandments of Moses that starts out like this. Hear ye, O Israel, the Lord thy God is how many?
One.
How many?
One.
End of story. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, my friend, they wrote between 90 to 110 years after Jesus. Paul wrote between 50 and 60 years after Jesus. So now, in order for them to have been disciples when they wrote, and Jesus was already 33 at that time, they would have had to have been 123 or 143. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, they were not disciples. Secondly, I ask you, Matthew who?
Mark who?
Mark who? Luke who? John who? How could 4 people that wrote separately, all of them forgot to write their last names? The second thing, the third thing, not only did they forget to write their last names, but they began their chapters. Although they wrote separately from each other, they all started out the same. They all said, according to, according to, according to, according to. Now, what's your name, sir? Huh? Another Paul. Paul. If you wrote me a letter or wrote your wife a letter, would you write according to Paul? No, you wouldn't. You would write your name at the end. And if you were asking for a debt that I owed you, you would write your last name and your address. The gospel writers, the alleged gospel writers, they didn't write a name. They didn't write an address, they didn't write a reference, and in the beginning of each one of their gospels, they said, according to, according to, according to, according to. No one knows who these people are who wrote those 4 gospels. They absolutely were not disciples. When we talk about prophets, there's not an issue of equality here. They all been sent by God with a message and with signs of prophecy. And God doesn't love one more than the other. And we don't say we love one more than the other. They're all prophets, brothers of prophecy from Almighty God. We love all of them, and we make no distinction except by saying one was the first prophet and the first man. The other, Muhammad, was the last prophet. That's the distinction we make of them. Jesus' distinction was that he was born without a father. Second thing, Jesus' distinction was that he spoke in the cradle. And Jesus' also distinction is that he was lifted up by God, and another distinction is that he will return before the end of the world.
Yes. Yes. Definitely.
Now those distinctions doesn't make Jesus better than another prophet. I'm talking to my friend there that just gave me the... So here, I want you to understand that if the basis of Jesus being born without a father makes him sort of like special in your eyesight, then what about Adam and what about Eve? They double special. I think, my friend and Christians that are here, no need for anybody to think that you gotta ring your bell about Jesus, because we got all the bells. We love Jesus, we think, more than you, because we believe that we understand the real Jesus, the historical Jesus that makes our love genuine and direct. Here we're saying we want to share all the love. We just want to make sure that the letter goes the right place. We want to make sure that the Jesus that we're loving, that we're following, that we're making reference to is the real historical Jesus. This is the issue. We're not trying to denigrate Jesus Christ. We're not trying to denigrate the church. We're not trying to embarrass, compete, or denigrate Christians or Christianity. No, we're trying to uncover all the rocks and see what's underneath them. Now, in all fairness, if evidence that I brought to you about the historical Jesus, if the idea of the historical Jesus is repugnant to you, anyone, if you think I don't have a right to talk, search, find, identify the historical Jesus, if you find some problem with that, you need to tell me. At the same token, I find a problem with someone manufacturing lies and fabrications and dramatizations and mythologies with Jesus Christ, especially when Jesus Christ himself had nothing to do with the evidence that they use. Now let's keep it on point, because that's the issue. There's no tug of war here. There's no issue here of arguing, trying to cast aspersion upon Jesus or Christianity. Because Jesus, for us, was a Muslim. Because Muslim means one that submits to God. Because Abraham was a Muslim, because he submitted to God. And Moses was a Muslim, and David and Solomon were Muslims, and all the prophets of God were Muslims, because Muslims doesn't mean Arabs, it means those that submit themselves to the law, the legislation, the inspiration, and the revelation from Almighty God. So if Jesus is a Muslim, we on his side. Well, the revelation that came to us through that final prophet and messenger, Muhammad, peace and blessing be upon him, in the Quran says, verily, they crucified him not, and they killed him not. This is what evidence, revelation came to us. Now, we have confidence in that revelation. But that's because we're Muslims, and that's our revelation. But let's go to the issue itself and discuss that a little bit. Because I believe that you're sincere and you're open-minded about this issue, wouldn't you? Okay, good. On that day, when Jesus Christ was allegedly crucified, before we talk about kill, let's talk about crucifixion first. On that day that Jesus Christ was allegedly crucified, Penny, what day was that?
Actually, I'm not sure the exact day.
Okay, I'll tell you it. That's all right. I'll tell you what day it was. is what they called it Good Friday. Isn't that Friday? You remember that now? Yeah, I said, what day was that? Good Friday, wasn't it? Isn't it? And for all Jewish people, Friday at sunset, what does it become, Penny?
Sunset becomes Saturday.
It becomes Saturday, right? Saturday for all Jewish people is what, Penny?
Saturday.
The Sabbath. Did you know, Penny, that no Jew could be prosecuted, persecuted, executed on the Sabbath? Do you know that?
Yes, but Jesus wasn't persecuted on the Sabbath. He was persecuted
Let's follow. Let's just follow for a moment. I just want to make sure we're on the same page here. On that day, allegedly, that Jesus was taken to Golgotha and put on that cross, allegedly. What time was it, Penny? It was in the afternoon. And Penny, I asked you another question. If it was Friday afternoon, Penny, how long did it normally take for a person after they had nails driven through their hands and feet, nothing else, and put on a tree? How long did it take for a person to die? Because crucifixion is not being nailed on the cross. Crucifixion is dying on the cross. Just like if somebody was electrocuted, if I say the person's supposed to be electrocuted or they're supposed to get an injection, if they got the injection and didn't die, were they executed? Were they? If they were put in the electric chair and the electric went all through them and they didn't die, were they executed? Okay, so if Jesus Christ was put on the cross, if he was put on the cross Friday afternoon, nails through his hands, not his heart, nails through his feet, not his heart, and put on the tree in order to be what? Humiliated, dehydrated, traumatized, and die a slow, agonizing death that usually took 3 to 4 days. Why would Jesus have died, Penny, in an afternoon before sunset if he was crucified?
So, the first part when he discussed about Mary, he said Catholic people make it seem as if Mary is God. I think it's their medium of worship, the way they worship. You know, in Catholic, there's an image of Mary in the altar, then you kneel down and pray to Mother Mary. That's what they do. So in a sense, Catholic make it seem as though Mary is God, because to him he's trying to say that why will you pray to Mary if Mary is not God? So he didn't really deliberate on that part, but I already understood the message he was passing on that. Then he spoke about the prophets. We have a lot of prophets in which he believed they are also Muslims. Adam, Noah, David, Solomon, they all believe they are all Muslims, because in the sight of God in Islam, they never did anything bad. Even though they did something bad, they're always repentant. So he spoke a whole lot about Christianity, about Jesus, why Jesus cannot be considered as God, and why Jesus was never crucified. And he went on and on to answer a lot of questions about Trinity. He spoke about Trinity, why Trinity does not make sense, because there cannot be 3 gods in one. So it was a beautiful one. It was a beautiful one. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button for more. Like, share, comment. I'll see you in the next one.